All right, so what we're talking about today is we are talking about the verb hacer. This is also another really common verb in Spanish. It's one of the very beginner phrases that they teach you is hacer, one of the very beginning verbs, because it means to do or to make. And because there are so many different things that you can do, you can make, hacer is one of the first ones that you want to learn. So hacer, it has two definitions. It has either to do or to make, and we'll talk about all those. Hacer can also be used as an expression too. So we'll get to that in just a minute. But yes, it means to do or to make. And our little formula today, our formula is very simple. It's just the correct version of hacer plus the thing. So that's pretty much what it is. So hacer plus the thing. And these are our 5 verb tenses that we're going to be using today. It's going to be hago, which is I, haces, which is you, hace, he or she, hacen, they, and hacemos, we. So those are the we formats. So just to go over it again, hago would be I do or I make. Haces, which would be you do or you make. Hace, which is going to be he or she makes or he or she does. Hacen, they make or they do. And then hacemos, we do or we make. So these are our 5 different conjugated tenses, the only ones that we're going to be working with. So it's either going to be one of these 5. So let's get started. So now that we understand that there's 2 definitions of hacer, so it can mean to do or to make. How do we know which one? Well, it depends on the sentence. And so, yes. Oh, hey, your fave 77. Yes, your favorite show is on. And all of my favorite viewers are here. So glad to see you guys. Okay, so let's go on and let's make a sentence out of it. So we understand our verb conjugations. We know our formula. We know the 2 different definitions of hacer. So let's get to it. Let's say, for example, let's start off with a common expression. So let's say if somebody wants to know more about you and you want to talk about the things that you do, because it does mean to do. So let's say you want to say, I work out. We could say something like, hago ejercicio. And I'm sure just from looking at that word, you probably have guessed that it means exercise. So what this phrase is saying is that I work out. Now, if you wanted to directly translate it, which I don't recommend that you do, because not everything in Spanish is directly translatable. You just want to kind of memorize different phrases and formulaic outlooks. We could just say, I do exercise. So if you want to translate it literally, this is I do exercise, because hacer does mean to do. But in actuality, the real definition is I work out. So that's the actual thing. So if somebody wants to hey, so what do you do during the day? Or what is something that you do? You can say, oh, okay, hago ejercicio, which is I work out. Okay? Hago ejercicio. Now, I got a fun little thing for y'all. So for those of you who were here on some previous lessons about how to say what you like or what you want or what you do, I got a little bit of a flashback from it, what we just did yesterday. What was yesterday's verb that we did? Querer. Yes. So if you wanted, this is how things tie together in Spanish. This is why if you ever miss a lesson, go to the YouTube channel. It's on the Black Girl Spanish, the YouTube page, and you'll go through the things that we talked about. Let's say, okay, I want to exercise. So remember we learned yesterday about the verb quiero? Now we can say quiero, which is I want. If we want to say I want to exercise, hacer ejercicio. So this is a callback to what we did yesterday and how we can make a fuller sentence, because the more words you learn, the fuller your sentences can be. So now I work out can be turned into I want to work out, because remember, when the verb is conjugated, the second one has to be left in the infinitive. So that's why this changed back into the infinitive. So quiero hacer ejercicio. Now we can put it together and say I want to work out. All right. Now let's take it back to another verb we learned, which was gustar. We studied gustar a few days ago. We could say me gusta hacer ejercicio, which is I like to work out. Okay. So that's just a few different review verbs. Now, if you weren't here for those days, that's fine. But for those of you who have been joining me every night, I'm just calling back in a few things that we learned and how you can put other verbs with it. So you can say, I like to work out, I want to work out, things like that. But back to our regularly scheduled program. Enough of the review from days ago. Let's go back to what we're studying today, which is hacer, which is to do or to make. Now, let's say something like, I assume everybody has a job on here, so you could say something like, I make money. So we could say, hago dinero, which is, I make money. Yep, I make money. So yes, so that is a way that we could do that. That's another way you can say that. Another way to use hago. So we said I work out. We said I make money. Let's say something like, let's see. Let's say that you are a student and you're going to class and you want to say, I do homework. So the way we'd say that is, hago la tarea. So here's a new vocab word. If you're not sure what this word means homework. The homework, to be specific. So, hago la tarea. I do the homework. So that's another one. And remember, I'm playing around with both to do and to make because they can mean either one depending on the sentence structure. All right. But remember, we don't always translate word for word. All right. Now, for those of you who cook, then you could say something like, hago comida. So now, in this case, for this specific context, now it's not going to be I do, because if I said I do food, that doesn't make any sense. So based on the context, we have to switch to the other definition, which is to make, because that sounds better and makes more sense to say I make food than I do food. So just go by context. Whatever the sentence is, that will tell you if it's going to be to do or to make, because there are two definitions, but you'll go off of what makes sense for the sentence. So this one says, oh, hola, las trajes now. Gracias por venir. Thank you for coming. So hago comida, which is I make food. So, okay, so translates to I make food. And since we are wanting to become more comfortable in Spanish, we can make some of the sentences a little longer, more detailed. So if we know this is I make food, well, where do you make food? Let's say, hago comida en la cocina. Hago comida en la cocina. Oh, that rhymes. And what that now means is I make food in the kitchen. Because cocina is how we say kitchen. That's how we say kitchen. So there we've made a full sentence. And just to go back to our formula up here, all we're doing is we're putting the correct version of hacer plus the thing. So here we are. This is the correct version of hacer plus the thing, which is food. And because we're learning Spanish and we're getting comfortable, we just went ahead and lengthened the sentence out to be more detailed. So hago comida en la cocina. I make food in the kitchen. And if you want to go even further than that, you could be like, okay, you make food in the kitchen for how long? Okay, I make food in the kitchen por 3 horas. I make food in the kitchen for 3 hours. Or I make food in the kitchen every day. Like, how often do you make food in the kitchen? Hago comida en la cocina todos los días. So there's lots of ways that we can lengthen it out. And just for fun, we will. So, todos los días. So now we've said what we do, we've said where we do it, and how often we do it. Hago comida en la cocina todos los días. I make food in the kitchen every day. Todos los días means every day. Okay? Todos los días. That means every day. Okay? So that is how we can go ahead and Yeah, hi Harper Kitten. Is that past tense or present tense? This is present tense. So because we're beginning here on Spanish, or most people here are beginning learners, this is present tense. Down the line, I may do a lesson on past tense or future tense for advanced learners, but I am sticking to the present tense. Okay. So now that we had some fun with that, let's do another example. All right. Now, you might have seen this phrase before because the verb hacer, yes, it does mean to do or to make. But let's also keep in mind, fun fact, that hacer can be used as an expression. Okay. It can be used as an expression in some cases. And expressions, just like in English, they don't have a direct translation. You just have to memorize them for what they are. So, for example, if you want to say it's hot outside, it's hot, it is hace calor. All right. And what that translates to is hot. And it's an expression, so it doesn't have a direct translation. Because if we tried to directly translate this, we could be like, okay, I said that is the he or she version of to do or to make. So he or she makes hot. He or she does hot. And see, that doesn't make any sense. So you can't directly translate it when it's an expression. You just have to get used to seeing things like this. So hace calor. And then the same thing if you want to say it's cold. We don't say es frío or está frío. We say hace frío. And that is the word that means is cold. Good job, Majay. Yes, it's cold. So I just thought I would teach you that sometimes when you see hacer or hacer, it can be used as an expression. But just go ahead and just commit these to memory that you'll say cold by saying hace frío and hace calor. Let's see. Okay, so no tengo frío. Good question. Good question. So another expression. So what you are saying now, you're making that personal by saying I am cold. So for example, because somebody in the comments just put, okay, so it's not going to be tengo frío. It would be if you want to say I'm cold. But I'm cold and it's cold are two different things, okay? So let's look at both of those because both are correct depending on what you want to say. So if you want to say I'm hot, then it's tengo calor because you're talking about yourself. But if you're just saying in general, it's hot, like you're just saying, oh yeah, it's hot outside, like you're not attaching it to a person, then it's hace calor. All right? So it just depends on what you want to say. Tengo, you are making it personal. You're saying I'm hot, like I am hot, like it's hot out here. And if you just want to say it's hot, like maybe you're referring to the weather and you're making a general statement, then it is hace calor. Okay? Hace calor. All right. So that is how we say that. And we'll do another example. I just had to let you all know that it can be used as an expression, but the more you study Spanish and you learn it, you'll know that that's just, kind of how it is. Okay. Yep, no problem. No problem at all. So let's do another fun example because, we love examples. The stuff is learned, we teach through examples. Okay, so let's see. Okay, I got an example for y'all. Let's see. Let's do another tense because we've been doing a lot with hago. Let's do the you form, haces. What if I wanted to say haces ejercicio? So let's see that you come across somebody and they're in excellent shape and you want to say, hey, do you work out? Like, do you work out? Well, we would say, haces ejercicio. Haces ejercicio, which is do you work out? And we followed the formula because we're saying the correct version of hacer plus the thing. So yes, this is the to form because we're talking about like do you work out? And then exercise is the thing. So if you see someone that's in great shape, then you could always ask them, hey, do you work out? Okay. So that's how we can use it in the to form. All right. Let's do another one. Thank you, Majay. Yeah, I try to do examples that are quite easy, but still something you can use in your everyday life and you feel like you can practice when you go out into the world. You can practice these. Okay. Now, let's see. Let's try a different tense. So we did the I form, we did the you form. Let's try another one. There's a lot of good ones, but I want it to be something good. Okay, I see it. Let's do Sen. Let's start with that simple phrase right there. Before we add on to it, let's start with that simple phrase. So if we want to decode or translate this sentence, we can say, let's see, what kind of hacer is this? Let's look up here at our chart. If we want to see up here at their chart, okay, this is the they form. So we're talking about the ellos form. We're talking about they, so more than one person. And then what is comida? Food. So if we know that hacer means to do or to make, does it make sense to say they do food? Or does it make more sense to say they make food? Exactly, it's Shell. It's they make food. Okay. And we can, of course, we can add on to it. Where are they making food? Okay. In la cocina. In the kitchen. All right. Excellent. Excellent. So, or, yep, exactly. Restaurante. Yep. Or in a restaurant. So that's another place they can do that. All right. Excellent job. Okay. We must have a teacher on here because they say, how you say, do your work. That's funny. Well, do your work. Well, what we be getting into by saying do your work, we will be getting into a conjugation that's not on our chart. Let's see. We want to say do your work is haz tu trabajo. And this form, just to touch on it, this is what you call a command. So now that I know that someone's interested, I'll do a lesson this week on commands. And commands are very different where you're actually telling someone to do something. So haz tu trabajo, that is like a command that says, hey, do your work. So, but today we're not going over the commands today. Right now, we're keeping it in the 5 traditional formats. But for those of you all who want to be able to give orders and shout demands, then yes, I'll do a lesson about how to, make, commands out of things. Okay, yeah, you said you are a teacher. Oh, that's good. So yeah, that'd be something you could say in the actual classroom because we have even so we have 2 different types of commands. We have informal commands and we have formal commands. So that's why I tell you that's another lesson in itself, a whole different one because it's informal. It is informal and it is formal commands. So just consider this like a little bit of an appetizer or like a commercial. Not a commercial. What am I trying to say here? It's like a sneak peek of another example. So a sneak peek of a future lesson. So the informal way of saying is as, the formal way is haga. So just consider this to be like a sneak peek into a future lesson where we do commands. And commands, we have informal and we have formal. But that is not our focus for today. But I want to let you know, yes, we do have certain commands and, that's a different verb tense. We want to keep it simple because for those of us who want to get out there and practice and want to do different things, I highly doubt the first thing we'll say to somebody we don't know is, hey, go do this, go do that. Now, that's not what we say to people when we first meet them. But it's all right. So let's get back to our examples here. So now, let me see if you all recognize this format. So now, this is a verb format we haven't used yet, but if we look up here, we'll be able to know what it is we want to say. Yep, great job, Life Strategies. We exercise. We exercise or we work out. So yeah, those are both two really good translations. It can mean exercise or it can mean we work out. But yes, we exercise / workout, because both of those work. Both of them work. So yeah. And good job, Bandita. Good job. So yeah, you said chaos is what are you doing? So good. So that actually brings us into a more commonplace phrase that you can say. So this is a very easy way you can engage with people who speak Spanish. You can say something like, okay, ¿qué haces? And this question right here will open up the door for different types of responses. So let's say, for example, okay, what are you doing? Exactly. All right. So yes, someone says, question, how come the word exercise is not written as to exercise? Well, because exercise in this type of context is an adjective. It's not being used as a verb. That's not what it was doing. And also, even if it were an infinitive, we wouldn't be able to use it that way, because if we have the first verb conjugated like hago, we can't turn around and say ejercicio or anything like that. It has to remain. It has to remain in the infinitive. But in that case, we weren't even doing that. We just said I like working out and I like exercise. So it's more like I like exercise. So in that case, let me just write it out so you all can see it. So, hago ejercicio. Now, we cannot directly translate it, but what this more roughly says is not that, okay, I do to exercise. This word here is being used more like an adjective. So it's more like I do exercise. Yeah, not bad. More like a noun, because a noun is a person, place, or thing. So when we say hago ejercicio, we're not trying to say I do to exercise like it's a verb. Ejercicio is being seen as a thing or a noun. So it's more like, oh, I do exercise or I work out, something like that. So that's just how it is. Now let's go over. Let's see. We got time for... Oh, somebody said this is so helpful. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no problem. Okay. Somebody said real quick, what would we have to exercise be? I remember the infinitive that you taught us yesterday. We have to exercise. Okay, well, that actually makes for a good way to look at our verb tenses. All right, so we have to exercise. We have to exercise. So someone wants to know, we have to. And see, that's why all of these verbs tie in together, because that goes into an earlier lesson we had about the verb tener and how tener que is we have to. So for those of you all who have not seen my TikTok, I did a short mini lesson through my cartoon character that is about how to use tener as a way to say we have to. All right, so tenemos que is we have to. That's what that's saying right there. And the word to exercise is literally hacer ejercicio. Okay, it's a phrase. So more like we have to do exercise. Ejercicio. All right, so if you want to say we have to exercise, then the Latin American culture, they refer to as hacer ejercicio. So that technically is the infinitive. The infinitive is included right here in hacer. So hacer ejercicio is really to exercise. So there you go. So we have to exercise. Tenemos que hacer ejercicio. Okay. Okay. Somebody say, yep, I remember. I be taking notes. Good job. Thank you for breaking down the conjugations. No problem. My goal is to learn Spanish, so hopefully where I have gaps, I can learn here. Yeah, absolutely. And I also teach classes. If you go to the link in my bio, I have actual beginners course for those who want to understand Spanish at a foundational level. Now, it may be labeled as people who are moving out of the country, but in the end, it's basically a foundational Spanish course that teaches you, all that you need to know, all you need to do. And of course, I have resources to help people who want to practice in real life called the Stop Gatekeeping Kit, where you learn to get over your fears and have actual tools for talking to native speakers with no fear and unapologetically. All right. Now, time flies when we're having fun. So, yeah, yes, life strategies, it's both words together. Now, time flies, so it's time for us to have quiz time. Quiz time. Quiz time. And I'll start off easy. If I want to say, I make food, how would I say that in Spanish? Thank you for the heart. Thank you. How would you say, I make food? Feel free to use our answer key up here for the right conjugation of hacer. Okay, I'm seeing correct answers. I am seeing correct answers. Everybody knows that it is hago, so that is great. That is great. Okay, good. Exactly. So, yes, if you said hago comida, you are correct. I make food. Hago comida. Correct form of hacer plus whatever it is that you're doing or you're making. Hago comida. All right, so I gave it to you all simply by giving you the English first and want you all to do the Spanish. So now I'm giving y'all the Spanish, and I want y'all to give it to me in English. All right, this is Spanish. Tell me in English what this is. Hacen ejercicio. Absolutely. Yep, I'm seeing everybody say they exercise, they work out. That is correct. Because hacen is basically the they form, the they them form of hacer. So there you go. They exercise / workout. Both of those work. Yep. Both of those those do work. Exactly. All right. So that's how we say that one. Great job, you all. I told y'all it's easy. All it takes is just a little bit of practice.